Question, these people around you all paid for that flight and you've not been elected yet. So will you commit to refunding these taxpayers for that flight?
Well, it's an interesting question, way of framing it. The tariffs that have been put on Canada, actual and prospective. One of the challenges...
The economic crisis was brought on by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and you were his advisor.
I think you would find. I think you would
did not create that problem.
I certainly. Hey, nobody in Canada created that problem. Nobody in Canada created that problem. My job is.
I'll take that as a no then.
No, you'll take that as a very comprehensive answer to your question.
Thank you.
For generations, Canadians have built this country on the idea that if you work hard, you should be able to have a good home in a safe community. Together, let's build a Canada you can afford. Let's build the strongest economy in the G7. Let's build Canada strong. Thank you, merci, and I'd be happy to take your questions.
Thank you.
Hi, David Staples from the Edmonton Journal.
Hi,
Welcome
David.
to Edmonton.
Thank you.
You met with Premier Smith. She's advocating for the private sector to build pipelines across Canada. What I want to know is, you've said you're open to this kind of development, but can you make a commitment to Canadians and to Albertans that you will fight to get pipelines built?
Yeah.
That you will fight in the way that the industry wants, getting rid of the West Coast tanker ban, reforming C-69. Will you commit to those things?
Yeah, Dave, thank you for the question, David. Look, and I had a meeting with the Premier this morning. I'll be with all the Premiers tomorrow for the First Minister's meeting. Let me tell you part of the focus of that meeting, because it goes directly to your question. It's about getting things done. It's about getting, yes, pipelines built across this country so that we can displace imports of foreign oil. It's about building out the energy infrastructure more broadly here in Alberta, which I would add would include projects such as the pathways. It's about building energy corridors and trade corridors, including potentially up from here through to Nunavut. So we have additional deep water ports and opportunities there. And so the commitment is to deliver those projects like those that we agree that are national priorities, and then the federal government, using all of its power, including new legislative powers or new legislation, in order to accelerate delivering those projects.
The Trump tariffs proposed, they're a big threat to our industry.
Yeah.
They're deregulating in the States. They're getting rid of taxes, carbon taxes, all kinds of taxes and regulations to free up industry. You're talking about bringing in an industrial carbon tax and supporting the emissions cap in Alberta. How is that going to help Canadian industry in the face of this threat from the United States?
Well, there's a couple of things, if I may, David. First is the question of access, reliable access to the U.S. market. And in order to have reliable access to the U.S. market, we're going to need a comprehensive renegotiation of our economic and security partnership with the United States. The American government has chosen to violate a number of aspects of that partnership for reasons known only to themselves. They're putting a tax on Alberta oil that serves no purpose other than to raise the price to U.S. consumers. And last point, which goes to your question, as opposed to having preset caps or preset restrictions on preset timelines. Thank you.
James from the Western Standard. You recently...
Sorry about the microphone.
Yeah, no problem. I'm a pretty tall guy. You have not been elected in a federal election yet, and you recently flew to Europe on government wide-body jet at the expense of at least $500,000. So the question I have for you today, and maybe I'll say this before I ask the question, these people around you all paid for that flight, and you've not been elected yet. So will you commit to refunding these taxpayers for that flight?
Well, it's an interesting question, way of framing it. Look, and I'm going to go back to, I'm going to allude to the question that was asked previously by Mr. Staples from the Journal, and the situation that we're in as a country, which is we are in an economic crisis that's brought on, sorry, I'm going to answer the question, brought on by the tariffs that have been put on Canada, actual and prospective. One of the challenges...
The economic crisis was brought on by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and you were his advisor at the time.
I think you would find...
These people did not create that problem.
I certainly... hey, nobody in Canada created that problem. Nobody in Canada created that problem. The U.S. government has decided to put tariffs on all of its closest allies. All of its closest allies. I wouldn't for a moment suggest that anyone in Canada is the cause of this. What our responsibility is to take action to react to a different world that we're in. And part of the way we do that is we build out new partnerships, new opportunities, including opportunities. And I'm going to give you a specific one, and then I don't know if you have one more follow-up, but I'll give you a specific example. It goes to my previous answer, something I also discussed with the Premier this morning, which is Canada has many advantages, and one of them is in critical metals and minerals. One of the issues is how are we going to develop the trade routes and the trade corridors rapidly in order to export those critical metals and minerals? And who are our clients for that? Who are our customers? Do we only have one customer to the south of us, the customer that's attacking us, that doesn't respect the trade agreements that they signed? Or should we develop new customers in Europe? What's required, if I may, what's required for those new customers is to build out trade corridors and infrastructure, including what I referenced in my previous answer and discussed with the Premier, is the potential to go north, go to new deepwater ports. Churchill is an example, Gray's Point in Nunavut as another. And that creates a whole new set of opportunities for Albertans as a whole, for people across the country, for these hardworking people around me and those like them in the trades. And that's what my job is.
I'll take that as a no then.
No, you'll take that as a very comprehensive answer to your question.